Just a little something I found with the F4 Flame board from HGLRC. Now this is a friend of mine's who's come in damaged after a crash. S1 and S2 signal pads no longer work. So I've remapped it to S1 on S6 and S2 on TX6. So that works fine. But then another little problem I came across was that all the voltage coming out of these pins for 3.3 volt and for 5 volt for the receiver had dropped. So in other words, the 5 volt reg had died for this board. Now every time I plugged in the battery I would only get the blue light and no confirmation of anything else. But when I plugged in the USB, it would boot up fine, which told me that the board only required 5 volts to come back alive. Now I plugged the battery back in, and I tested the 5 volt output for the camera, and that was still a 5 volt output. These pins were only outputting 1.3 volts. Also tested this 5 volt output, and it was still outputting 5.4 volts. So what I've done here is, that's powering my VTX03, and that one's powering the camera. So what I've done here is basically taken the 5 volt that's coming out and powering my VTX and just basically put a jumper from there straight to the 5 volt pin on this side for the receiver power, which is obviously the FC power as well, and jumped it straight across, and it works fine. So I'll plug it in, and now it works perfectly fine. So if you ever come across that problem where the board comes alive when it's plugged into USB, but when you plug into battery there's no response, check the output of your receiver, because that seems to be a 5 volt that is also tied in to the FC, and these 5 volts here seem to have their own separate supply, which is pretty handy. So that's another way to save your F4 Flame board. Stay airborne.